Good morning, guys. My name is Tony Maritato. I'm a licensed physical therapist, and in today's video, I want to talk about one of the most frustrating aspects of the game of pickleball, and that's going to be your grip strength. Both grip strength, wrist range of motion, finger dexterity, these are all components that are going to lead to either success or failure on the court. And so I want to share a couple of my favorite exercises for anybody who wants to improve the way you can control the paddle. Now, in my hand, you see a typical rolling pin. It could be wood, it could be metal, it could be marble, it could be whatever you have sitting in the back of the kitchen drawer that hasn't been used for the last 15 years. I love rolling pins for a bunch of different reasons, and you're gonna see a lot of videos on this channel of me using the rolling pin for different things, but talking about grip strength, wrist mobility, finger dexterity, here are my favorite couple of exercises to get started. First, though, I want to talk about what these movements are. So when my palm is palm up, this would be called supination. This is referencing the wrist to the elbow, the forearm. Supination, when I turn over, that's pronation. If I move my pinky, if I bend my wrist toward the inside of my forearm, that's ulnar deviation. And when I bend my wrist toward the thumb side, that's radial deviation. So if you have these basic motions, right? Forearm, supination, pronation, ulnar, radial deviation. Then of course we talk about gripping itself. Now I am not a certified hand therapist. There are some amazing CHTs out there, but basically we want to make sure that we can actually grip the paddle. We want to make sure that we can do finger to finger, tip to tip, pad to pad. These are different little exercises. And then we're going to take that motion and we're going to add a little resistance. Now, this is actually a baker's rolling pin. This is 5 pounds, so it's got a little bit of weight to it. I'm going to kind of step back, elbow extended. I can go into a pronated position, which is also shoulder internal rotation because I've got the whole arm moving. I could go to supinated position, which is external rotation of the shoulder. If I bend the elbow, I kind of take the shoulder out of the exercise. I can go pronation, supination. If I turn, I can go ulnar deviation, radial deviation. These motions are important. If I feel like I'm not getting enough motion, what I like about the rolling pin is the handle allows me to add what we call overpressure. So I get the range of motion that I have available, and then I add a little overpressure to stretch the connective tissue. If I go into ulnar deviation, again, I can add a little overpressure. If I go into supination, I can grab it and add a little overpressure. And of course, pronation, a little bit of overpressure. When we're talking about wrist mobility, for me to grip the paddle effectively, I need to have a little bit of wrist extension. One way I can work on that is literally just rolling the rolling pin back and forth. So I go from a wrist flexed position to a wrist extended position. And then I do the same thing on the other side. I can hold the rolling pin vertical and work on wrist flexion to wrist extension just around the pivot point. And then of course I switch and I work the other side because we want to make sure that both sides are equal. Even if you're a right-handed pickleball player, you still want to work the left side. And then finally, my last little tip for the fingers themselves is going to be working on, I'm going to try to come in close, working on the mobility of each individual joint. So the way the index finger is kind of structured, I want to be able to touch that pad to the base. I come in here. And even if you can't do it on each finger initially, with some practice, you should get to the point where you're going to be able to do that. Now, if you have severe arthritis, you have a rheumatoid arthritis condition, you have some other reason for not being able to regain the mobility, what I would recommend as a licensed physical therapist is working on maintaining the mobility you have. Some of my clients will develop these adhesions into the palm so they can't fully open or extend the fingers. Again, this is something that can be worked on. If you're dealing with a condition like trigger finger, of course, have an evaluation, talk to a medical specialist so that you know what kinds of things that you can and can't do. Carpal tunnel is another common condition. If many of my patients have had a carpal tunnel release, we want to make sure that we assess where they are right now. But wrist mobility, finger mobility, grip, forearm, elbow, the list goes on. All of these things are going to contribute to you enjoying the game of pickleball more frequently, more often, and more deeply, simply because it allows you to play longer. Guys, thanks so much. I'll catch you on the next video.